The Saints are back on the road as they take on the Buffalo Bills. Can the Saints defense find a way to affect the reigning MVP? Will quarterback Spencer Rattler shine on his birthday? Will AK break through the starting offensive line back intact for the first time this season? The Black and Gold have made the trip and are ready to cheer on the Saints as they look to shock the league. Welcome into Saints Game Day Live right here on NewOrleansSaints.com. I'm your host, Erin Summers. The Saints take on the 3-0 Bills 12 o'clock on CBS right there in Highmark Stadium. It is going to be a fun atmosphere, much similar to last week when they played in Seattle, loud, so they're ready for it. The Saints let that game get away from them a little bit early on in Seattle, so today they are focused in on a few key factors that they have been making top of mind in practice. Head coach Kellen Moore says they have to limit the penalties. They have to find a way to affect quarterback Josh Allen, and they need to make sure that they're controlling the tempo, controlling the clock, and trying to keep the ball out of the Bills' hands. They are the #1 offense in the league. Looking at that Bills offense, they are led by quarterback Josh Allen. He is a dual threat, extremely good at extending plays, and he's been mistake-free so far. 5 touchdowns on the season, no interceptions. Running back James Cook is a very good option for the Bills. He's coming off back-to-back games of over 100 yards rushing. Then you have their receivers. They are a true receiver by committee. They don't have one player that has really stood out yet this season. It's been a number of them. Wide receiver Keon Coleman leads the team in receiving yards. Tight end Dalton Kincaid leads the team in touchdowns, and he just has 2. It all starts with the offensive line. There in Buffalo, they've only allowed 4 sacks. They've been very good at giving Josh Allen the time he needs to work. It will be a challenge for the Saints defense to find a way to harass him, whether it's speeding him up in the pocket, forcing him into mistakes, or keeping him in that pocket and eliminating his options down the field. A really cool storyline to watch in this one is defensive end Carl Granderson, who is getting to go up against his former college quarterback, Josh Allen. They played 3 years together in Wyoming, and Grando has never been able to take Allen down, something they did not allow him to do in practice, so he's looking forward to that opportunity in Buffalo. Grando does lead the team with 3.5 sacks. When you look at the Buffalo Bills defense, they are going to be without 2 of their starters today, linebacker Matt Milano and defensive tackle Ed Oliver. Those are 2 of 5 players on this Bills team that have a sack this season. They only have 5 total, and it's 1 person apiece. No one has more than 1. Miami had success last week against the Bills, being able to extend drives. Long drives down the field. They hung in the game until the 3rd quarter, and then Josh Allen did Josh Allen things, but that is something that the Saints want to do. Against a Bills defense that is 2nd in the league against the pass, they are last in the league against the run. So if you can establish that run game, really start to just work methodically down the field, might bode well for the Saints. Few things to watch out for players there on the Bills defense. Linebacker Terrell Bernard got his first interception of the season. That's the only interception the Bills have on the season. And then safety Cole Bishop, he leads the team in tackles. They did add defensive end Joey Bosa in the offseason. He has overshadowed the former first-round pick in Greg Rousseau, but they're both very good, and Rousseau is really just looking for his opportunity to prove people right. So you got to watch out for the 2 ends there in Buffalo. Earlier this week, I was able to catch up with head coach Kellen Moore, get his thoughts on what he's looking out for and how they can limit quarterback Josh Allen. What have been the biggest points of emphasis in this week's practice?
Yeah, just the details that go into each and every play, and so every play counts, every play matters. I think our guys have had excellent focus. It's week 4, and we got to just get simply better.
Something that has been working is that tight end connection. We saw Jack Stoll get his first career touchdown. Juwan Johnson, 2nd in the league in receptions right now among tight ends. How much of that is a product of this offensive scheme?
Yeah, I think those guys are doing a really good job. Juwan's obviously leading the way. He's a phenomenal player, and we need him to come in each and every week and handle that workload. And so Jack was awesome, first career touchdown. He's done a lot of dirty work over his career. He's been a blocker for the most part, and for him to get his touchdown, I thought it was just awesome for him.
What do you like about that connection between the tight ends and quarterback Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, I think it's just their high comfort level. You know, they're usually in spaces where you got to find the completion, you got to get the ball moving, and they've just done an excellent job being quarterback friendly.
The Bills have the last ranked rush defense. How do you expose them?
Yeah, you got to be able to get rush attempts. I think that's the biggest thing is all three phases got to play well together. We've talked about it all week. We got to give ourselves opportunities to play in the run game, and that comes down to being in really good situations.
Looking at the Bills offensively, led by quarterback Josh Allen, what do you do to limit him?
Yeah, Josh is a phenomenal player, and he's going to make some plays. We got to do a really good job of against the run. I think that starts that way, and then we got to do an excellent job when he does get off schedule of being able to pursue him and then cover the receivers in the scramble drill.
Speaking of the receivers, when you have a team that is receiver by committee, where's the focus?
Yeah. I think it's really focused on being sound within the scheme, understanding everyone's alive, everyone's going. They got a really deep group that they all have really high capacity. They're really smart players, and so they're able to do a lot of different things.
A lot of new here with this team going into this season. What gives you confidence that they're going to bounce back this week?
Yeah, just our mindset and mentality going into each week. I think there's a growth mindset. We just got to get better. It's week 4 in the NFL. There's a lot of opportunities ahead of ourselves, and this group's excited to get going.
Talk to some of the players. A lot of them haven't played in Buffalo. So what have you told them about having success in that crazy environment?
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere. I think it's one of those fun ones in the NFL, and so it'll be a tough environment. It'll be a lot of fun, and I think our guys will be excited about it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Coach Moore really emphasized that growth mindset that this team has and said that it has to start this week. They have to be better in week 4. Let's head to Stan Verrett, get his recipe for success on how the Saints can do that in Buffalo and come out with a win.
The Saints head to Buffalo Sunday, still looking for their first win of the season. Let's talk about the recipe for success for that game. It starts with a complete pivot from what happened Sunday in Seattle when the Saints got into a big hole and weren't able to climb out of it. So how do they avoid that this week? Well, first of all, they have to clean up the penalties. 11 for 77 yards against the Seahawks. The Saints are averaging 10.3 penalties per game. That's tied for the most in the NFL. And it's going to be especially important this weekend because they're playing a Buffalo team that is tied for the fewest penalties in the NFL. On offense, the key ingredient is patience. The Bills have the second best passing defense in the NFL. But I went back and looked at the game that they played Thursday against the Dolphins. And Miami managed touchdown drives of 10 plays, 16 plays, and 9 plays to keep the game competitive. They put together methodical drives, ending in touchdowns, and kept themselves in the game into the fourth quarter. So that'll be a key for the Saints as well. Taking what's there, not trying to force the ball downfield if those plays aren't there. Kellen Moore has also talked about the scramble drill this week. When plays get off schedule, can Spencer Rattler move out of the pocket, and can receivers find open spaces or work their way back to the ball to keep plays that get off schedule from turning into negative plays and hopefully turn them into positive plays and big gainers. The other ingredient, of course, is dealing with Josh Allen, the league's reigning MVP, who's off to another great start this season. But also from that Miami game, Allen threw just one pass longer than 10 yards down the field. The Dolphins did a good job of keeping everything in front of them and making sure that the Bills didn't get any big pass plays through the air, and that's going to be a key for the Saints as well this week. Some turnovers would also help. As a big underdog on the road, you can flip the game with some opportunistic defense. The Saints are one of only 5 teams with no interceptions so far this season, so if they can get some takeaways, that could help. Buffalo, though, no turnovers so far this season, so maybe they're due, and maybe the Saints are the team that finally is able to take the ball away from the Bills. Going to be a tough task. Buffalo has won 13 consecutive regular season games at home, but if the Saints can concentrate on the areas that we've discussed, maybe they're the team that goes into Buffalo and stops the streak. Aaron, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Stan. I can definitely agree with you on a couple points there. You can't hurt yourself. Eliminating those penalties and then making Josh Allen uncomfortable or at least containing him would help a lot. I'm going to add 2 more ingredients in my recipe for success. There it is. Establishing the run game. Running back Alvin Kamara needs to get going in this one, especially against a Bills run defense that is last in the league. Last time AK faced a team that was the last ranked run defense was week 9, 2024. That was last season against the Panthers. and he ran for 155 yards. It should be easier for the Saints to exploit that area with the starting offensive line intact for the first time all season. We are getting Trevor Penning, who makes his season debut at left guard, and Taliese Fuaga, who returns from that back knee injury, back at right tackle. It's the first time we're going to see them all together, and I think that kind of continuity is definitely going to help this team have success in the run game. Then from there, I want to see some tempo from quarterback Spencer Rattler. Another area that the Bills defense has struggled in is against those quick plays. They allow the 7th highest passer rating to quick throws, and then the most touchdowns in the league on quick throws. So if Spencer can get going quickly, then he might have opportunities for success to move the ball down the field, even if it is just some of those short throws. You can dink and dunk down the field. Again, that will help you control the time of possession. So we'll see how this offensive game plays out. And, Stan Verrett never ceases to amaze me. He was able to grab another impressive celebrity for this week's celebrity guest interview. So, Stan, I'm going to let you and one of the best to ever work in the NFL, Chris Berman, take it away.
And joining us now, the host of ESPN's NFL Primetime, Chris Berman, one of the true legends of our business. Chris, welcome to Saints Game Day Live.
Hi, Stan. I can already smell, the jambalaya and the gum. And thanks for sending those beignets. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Hey, over the years, one of the phrases that you came up with has had you associated with the Bills. You said, "No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills," and it stuck. How did that come about?
Well, I wish I could tell you exactly the moment. The answer that I should give, and it probably was from this, was they were down 35-3 in 92, those Bills that went to 4 straight Super Bowls. They 35-3 to the Houston Oilers in the playoffs, early third quarter, and Jim Kelly was hurt and Frank Reich was quarterback. Well, you know what happened.
Yep.
Great comeback in football history. They won in overtime, and I let's just go with this as the answer. That night on primetime, I went, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So there would be other games, not as dramatic, that they, we were down or something with those great teams of Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and Bruce Smith and Cornelius Bennett and Andre Reed. I mean, we could go on and on and on.
Yep.
And it stuck, then they've gone down. But like now, it certainly applied to that week 1 wild win at the end against Baltimore, didn't it?
Yeah, and now they're running over folks with the wagon with Josh Allen behind the wheel. What's impressed you most about watching him?
There's some Brett Favre in him. And I don't say that because Brett is right down the road from New Orleans. Brett and I love him. He's still not a boy, but you can see that he's a young man playing a man's game, and he's all football player too. I mean, I could have said this 3 years ago with you, obviously.
Yep.
He's learned that 12 times a game, don't be Earl Campbell and bowl somebody over. But if it's needed in the football game, he goes, hey, Chris, I'm a football player. This is what I do. But also, it's different to play in a place like Buffalo. You better have a strong arm come Thanksgiving on, obviously, wind, snow, whatever. And he's settled in Buffalo like Jim Kelly did. He's from California, although a smaller town. And he goes, it reminds me a little bit of being in a small town. I think he's from Reading. But he's all football, and he's embraced Buffalo even when he was a rookie, Stan. Yep. He likes embracing New Orleans right out of the gates. And then great things happen. And he's not looking for credit for himself. And you can watch, when you guys watch the game today, and then I'll lay out moving it to today, he spreads the ball around offensively. You don't know, other than Cook running the ball well, James Cook, well, this might be 6 catches for the tight end, or it might be more to the wide receiver, or it might be something else. It's a real spread the wealth. It's football in its truest sense, and he embodies it.
Chris, big task for the Saints to deal with him, the reigning MVP and everything else that Buffalo does. But You know, we've seen upsets in the NFL before. This would be a shocker, the biggest upset of the season. What can the Saints do to go in there and shock the world today?
Well, it will be the biggest upset of the season, period, if they do it. And we can already move on to January because there won't be any bigger. That being said, the Saints need to look at Buffalo's last game, 21-21 with Miami, who was the coach is going to get fired. Yeah. They're terrible. And they had a chance to win the game, Miami, in Buffalo. So, look, New Orleans, you know better than me. You're close to the team. I just looked over their roster, et cetera. And how could they do it? Well, who's your best player on offense? Obviously, Kamara, right?
Yep.
And maybe Olave. But if it's like the Seattle game for the Saints, the first two games, you know, they played at defense with a couple of veterans. I know a lot of these guys. I know a few personally, Cam Jordan and Pete Werner, for example. I know them from the Zurich every year, and I see them.
Yep.
Can they keep it so that Rattler is not 17 down late second quarter like at Seattle? Because then it's done. Not that he's awful. He's young. The Saints are young. Kellen Moore is first year head coach, all this. Can they keep it a game to late third quarter like Miami did? Now, Alvin Kamara just went 70 yards. Oh, you know, so it's a tough task because the Bills know they did that against Miami last game. Are they going to do that again? I don't know. But that's what the Saints need to do. Keep it, 7, even 10, late third quarter. Like we like to say, Stan, that's why the ball isn't round. It bounces, it goes another way. Saints pick it up. They return a kick, a punt. Well, let's say a kick, And so it's football. It would be a huge upset. Kellen's building something. They played tough on D. This is a tough call for them. But then they've got, right, looking at your Saints, I mean, you've got, the Giants with a rookie, New England, who's second-year quarterback, at Chicago, second-year quarterback. So, I mean, I wouldn't despair if this doesn't go well for New Orleans. That's what I'm saying.
All right, well, they'll have to embrace the challenge of trying to get that biggest upset of the season that we talked about. And we'll see them tonight on the highlights on NFL Primetime with you and Booger McFarland.
We'll give the Saints some love.
All right.
I like being fed down there more than anyone else. Nice to be with you on the show. Great, and congrats on this gig.
Great, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Stan.
Hopefully Berman is giving us some love tonight because of some big plays by the Saints against the Bills. Now looking at who is in and out in today's matchup up there in Buffalo. Some good news, obviously, with some healthy players back in the mix, but defensive end Chase Young, wide receiver Trey Palmer still dealing with injuries, running back Devin Neal, cornerback Rajon Wright, offensive lineman Xavier Truss, Dylan Radin's also an injured player, and defensive end Jonathan Bullard all are healthy scratches in this one. When you look at this Saints team, right there, it's the offensive line warming up. You see Trevor Penning next to Kelvin Banks. They haven't been able to play together yet this season, and that is a position for Penning that is new for him. But he was really excited about it coming into the season. So being able to make his debut there at left guard next to their first-round pick, it's going to be really interesting to see how everybody gels and how much that does help this team establish that run game and give Spencer Rattler some time to work. Look, the last time the Saints played Buffalo in Buffalo, it was a very good game for New Orleans. It was an absolute blowout. The Saints, since 2000, are 5-1 against Buffalo. Now, if you go to the Vegas sports books, look, the odds are not in the New Orleans Saints' favor, but they did fight back in both the first two games this season. And after a tough outing last week, hey, maybe pride is on the line here, and they could be primed for a big bounce-back game in Buffalo, as they say, any given Sunday. Thanks so much for joining us right here on the New Orleans Saints pregame show. We'll be back after the game. Scott Shanley will be back here to join me, break down everything that happened in this game. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to the website. as you watch the game 12 o'clock on CBS. For Stan Verrett, I'm Erin Summers. Enjoy the game, and let's go Saints.